And Neil, as we're talking about this state by state alcohol system, part of that is because when the 21st Amendment ended prohibition of alcohol at the federal level, it didn't actually fully regulate alcohol at the federal level. What it did is it empowered the states to put their own programs in
Yeah.
place. And now that's what we have. And now we're talking about looking at certain hemp products as being regulated under these alcohol agencies at state levels. How similar are the different alcohol programs from state to state? And
Yeah.
because we're familiar with
A
how cannabis
loaded
is
question.
rolled out in such different ways from state to state, is the alcohol regulatory environment as different and disparate?
The cannabis industry and the hemp industry like to complain about how overregulated the industry is and how different regulations are from state to state, how different testing regulations are, milligram limits, advertising restrictions. Alcohol is very similar to cannabis, but I would say times 10. There are a lot of regulation, a lot of varying degrees of regulation over alcohol that are different from state to state. Franchise rights would be a good example of that. Some states have a concept called franchise rights, which give additional protections to the wholesale tier, the distributor tier. Some states don't. In the states that do have franchise rights, those franchise rights are applicable for just beer. In other states, they're applicable for just wine and spirits. And in some states, they're applicable to both beer and wine and spirits. And in those states where they're applicable to beer, wine, and spirits, the franchise rights are different for all three of those commodities. So that's just one example of how states vary in their approaches to regulating alcohol. Then states also will categorize different products differently. For example, some states will look at an RTD like a White Claw, and whether it's spirit based or malt based, where will qualify it as a wine or a spirit or a beer from the alcohol regulatory perspective. But the taxing agency in the state may categorize it as something else. So it's taxed differently than how it's actually regulated by the alcohol agency. And this is on a national scale, which we're starting to see in the hemp beverage world and the hemp products world too.